So in the last film, I showed you about major pentatonics, minor pentatonics, and a few other things to do with interpolating between chords. Now it's time to sort of explore a bit of the top of the bass here. Lots of bass players, it's kind of up to there and then there be dragons from there on in. So on the 12th fret here, we've got the two spots here, and that means you're an octave above the open strings. So when you're playing a solo, you can start using the top notes of the bass so that you can cut above the mix a bit more. So if I do something, maybe I'll just play with the drums and I'm going to play something on G minor and then I'm going to play a solo so you can kind of see what I'm on about. So you can start putting stuff up here that's kind of an octave above where the main groove was. So the simplest thing to do to start with would be to replicate your bass line that you had, put it up an octave, and then play some different rhythms and some sort of rhythms that are a bit freer. That gives you your sort of solo when the drummer is continuing, just going doomt, oomt, oomt, oomt. Be aware that bass soloing is not all about the notes like that, but more rhythmic stuff as well. And other little sort of variations. Of course, having sort of restricted area here does lessen the things that you can do. A guitarist has got all these, two extra strings and lots more things that can be done. So the nature of a bass solo is that it's a bit different to a guitar solo in that sort of note range. You can also use your slap bass sort of thing. And a bit of vibrato, although it's less noticeable on a bass than it would be on a guitar. Now the scale that I'm using there, I'm actually using something a little bit more complicated than just the minor pentatonic, which was this. I was going like this, using extra notes. Now I'm actually using something called a mode. And what a mode is it's a diatonic scale. That is, there are 7 different notes in the scale, a bit like the major scale or the natural minor scale. And I'm just changing the notes slightly. So in a minor scale, I've always got these 3 notes. You can play patterns in different ways as well. I can do this. There's all sorts of things that can be done here. So I'm using something called the Dorian mode, which goes last finger, first finger. This is all assuming 1 finger per fret, by the way. I'm not giving fret numbers because actually you can play it anywhere. So last, first, middle, last, middle, annular, last, and then index to finish off. And then you can use bits of the scale that are either side of that. You can continue sort of on the next octave, as it were. And below that. And there's your sort of solo idea. Now, of course, you can move around and do other things, but as I said, previously, it's quite nice to have a rhythmic thing for your bass solo. That sort of thing, rather than... which kind of doesn't really say anything except I'm frustrated, I've just done a whole gig playing root notes and I want to go... "Ah!" So keep it rhythmic, keep it sort of groovy. The drummer will be probably having a kick drum and hi-hats. No snare. Lots of gaps, and also quite a loud sort of volume as well. Now what you can do with a bass solo is you can pluck the strings that are a little bit closer to the bridge, because actually what you get is a slightly thinner tone which can cut above the, or rather a slightly middlier tone, instead of... you get a bit more presence if you play there. Bit woolly there. Now this bass has flat wound strings on it. They're more like double bass strings. I quite like that on this Precision. But you can have round wound bass guitar strings, or you can have other sorts of bass strings. But this gives me a slightly sort of middlier tone, which I quite like. I'm not into all that sort of treble, sort of active bass sort of thing. But saying that, it's useful for some musics anyway. So if I just grab my other bass, well, I've got a couple of others. Something like this. This is a copy of the Gibson Firebird. This is quite a cheap guitar, actually. It's only, I think I paid 200 quid for it. So you can see that there's, well, you can hear, rather, that there's a lot of a brighter tone here. It's just got a different sound to the Precision. So, but the Precision is a good all-round bass, and it's still one of the best-selling ones there is. So there is an introduction to bass across 3 programs. Have a look at the other ones, and also please do subscribe to my channel. You can see all sorts of other things, demos, music demos, repair videos. Repairing electronics of something like a bass is actually quite a simple process. They're pretty robust, but when they do go wrong, it's usually quite an easy fix. So have a look at those other things as well.